Thank you so much for being on the show today. I am so excited to talk to you.
I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. And I know that I'm going to learn a lot from you because we're going to be talking about how to stop procrastination and just really pretty much procrastinating your life away. So I want to understand why I am procrastinate and how to stop doing it and how to really live to my fullest potential. And I know you're going to tell me exactly what I need to do and my listeners to do that. But before we dig into that, how did you're an author. I mean, you do so many things. How did you get to where you are right now?
You're going to be underwhelmed by the answer one step at a time.
Okay.
One step at a time.
All right.
When I first started my business, I was actually working in another business that I loved. I had a great job. I was earning good money. I loved my work. I loved my clients. I loved my team. It was 5 minutes from home, gorgeous building. Like you couldn't ask for anything better on the surface. And then I just had my son, whom I love and adore. And I went through a moment where I went like, this is really scary. How am I going to have that same level of dedication with my work and pay attention to my child? And I went through a bit of a emotional turmoil at that point. My husband was driven crazy by me. And he's like, Larisa, you got to go find another coach. Cause I've been working with coaches on and off for different reasons for a number of years, for probably over 20 years, just business coaches, life coaches, spiritual coaches. And he's like, you need someone because I can't have this conversation. So he sent me away. And it was good. It was great. But at this time, it really got me to evaluate another layer, another aspect of myself. There's a metaphor that's of peeling the onion when you're going through your growth work. You peel the outer layer and you go deeper and you go deeper and you go deeper. And I'd peeled a lot of layers. I thought I knew myself. I did not know myself. There's a lot of things that I had no clue that were so present and that were so necessary until that point in time. And so many parts on the journey. But right before I was about to go back to work, my husband and I were listening to an event, an online event, and there was an opportunity to become a consultant for Bob Proctor. And he was one of the world's leading authorities in prosperity thinking and growth. You've heard of him. You're like, yes,
I've
got the nod. You've got the nod.
Who hasn't heard of him?
I'm amazed if you haven't. He's a legend. He's been around for a long time. And
I think I've actually had some of his cassettes, like his training cassettes,
yeah.
right? Did he do that a long time ago? I was in sales.
I didn't have his cassettes. I have all the Tony Robbins cassettes, but I dismissed him back in the day when cassettes were cool. I came into contact with him when like digital media was around.
That's so funny. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just like, I had a flashback to when I did hear about him for the first time, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah. So anyone that hears about cassettes, we are hinting at our era.
Yes, we are.
You know what that is. And if not, go Google it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So
you were offered to be a consultant.
Yeah. So an opportunity came up, and like, I love my work. And I told my husband, I'm like, every excuse under the sun. I'm going back to work. I have a baby, blah, 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 blah. Like just lots of reasons. And then he stood up and he put his hands on his waist, and I'm sitting down and he's towering over me. My husband's not that kind of man, but when he gets serious, you got to listen. Yeah. And so he's like, Larisa, if you keep doing what you're currently doing, are you going to get to where you need to be? And I was like, everything in me wanted to say yes, and I couldn't. Wow. And that was a big moment because I ended up applying to be a consultant. I got accepted, and I started part-time. I went back to work part-time. I shouldn't have done it. But I started the new business, Ready, Fire, Aim. And within a few months, I left my previous position because I knew it was time to leave. And it was just so good. It was hard to leave. And I don't necessarily recommend people start a brand new business, Ready, Fire, Aim, with no plan. I think you've got similar experience. We're grateful it worked out.
No plan in place. I don't recommend it either. It did work out, but it was an interesting journey.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I think there's two schools of thought. I don't feel like people should go jump ship and quit their jobs to go pursue entrepreneurship. However, there are times where it's actually required. And so you really do have to know yourself better than anyone else. And that really does tie into everything in your life. Other people can't make those decisions for you. And you've got to take that responsibility. And whether it works or it doesn't, if you jump ship, be prepared to fall on your face and accept it, because you will fall on your face a lot. You will have a lot of learning lessons, and you can learn from them, or you will have them again and again and again and again and again and again and again until you wake up or you go, what's going on?
That's so like that's too true. But it is. You really do have to know yourself. And I never looked at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes so much sense. And you do kind of go through, like you hit a great point and then you fail, you fall on your face, right? It's almost like that cycle, but then you've got to get back up and then you fall again and then you get back up. But every time you fall, it's almost like you're falling a little bit higher on the hill, right? Getting to that place. So I want to talk about procrastination.
Yeah.
And why we procrastinate. Do you know the secret to why we procrastinate?
It's so easy to just get like the canned response, but there's not just one reason we procrastinate. I think there are some deeper reasons. And I'd say some of the higher level reasons that we procrastinate. First, okay, let me just go. Procrastination is the act of delaying something until the last minute or spending time doing something that's less important in order to avoid doing what actually needs to get done. Okay, so if you think about that definition, then a lot of times the things that need to get done is out of your conscious awareness. And sometimes you know, but you're pretending it's not there. And so why do we procrastinate? Okay, so it's typically one of three things. First, it's a behavior you learn from someone. You see your parents and they put things off and you don't know any better. You just do what they do. So you're like, well, they say do it later, we'll do it later. They leave a messy house and don't put things away, we do that too. They say, okay, we'll get to that eventually, and never do. They leave a lot of open loops and unfinished projects. You do that too. And that's a lot of times by default. People just, they see it and they step into it. They don't even make that conscious or intentional choice. And they don't mean to be, but they just are, they just do. Second thing is they have an identity of being a procrastinator. And I think so often I had a client, and where it really became apparent, and other research has supported this as well, but I had a client, she said, I am the princess of procrastination. And she came on my call with a crown. I'm like, please take that off. Take that off now. This is not something to celebrate, because she was doing it to make a joke. However,
Right.
even sometimes when you joke about things that are not serving you, and in her case, she wanted to stop it, but she was trying to make a joke out of it. I'm like, you're reinforcing it 1,000 times. You're reinforcing it with pictures. You're making a joke about it. Like your kids do things to get attention because they want the laugh, even if it's bad. It's the same thing when you're a grown up. We do these things out of our awareness, and we might say, I'm a procrastinator. Oh, I'm just such a procrastinator. It's same thing like, oh, I'm such a perfectionist. Like perfectionists are just such procrastinators because they're just doing so many things for everybody else, but the real stuff's not getting done. And we wear these labels like a badge of honor, or like if we procrastinate because we've just got so much to do and we're so busy, then it's almost like we're trying to elevate ourselves, but it's really not working. But we have this identity. Oh, look at this. My husband just found my book.
She
Husband
does
is a
have
genius. My husband is a genius. Right before we got on, we were saying, I can't find my book, and I'm at sister's house. So beautiful.
And
She's very
your sister
resourceful.
does have her book.
Yeah, she does have one. I'm so glad. So I talk about procrastination in the second chapter of my book, right? It's called Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away, Discover the Secrets to More Time, Money, and Freedom. And procrastination really is huge. And so often we take on these identities, and whether we think it's good or bad or it's a joke, if you say I am, anything that follows the words I am is like you see yourself as that person. That is such a strong belief system, even if you think it's a joke. So just don't say that anymore. Like cut that language out. Even if you're like, okay, I'm still doing the behavior of procrastination, don't say I'm a procrastinator. Just say, wow, I'm I'm getting more resourceful every day. I'm becoming a resourceful person. There we go. I'm becoming, I'm learning, I'm being more proactive today than I was yesterday. Okay. I'm becoming effective. Okay. If you're not there yet, at least use a bridge word and take on a new identity. And then the third thing is it's a habit. It's just a habit. You just started doing it, and it has a snowball effect. The snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And all of a sudden you look around and go, I don't know which end is up. So
Yes. And you know what? I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of times I hear mainly women say, I am, but they end it with something that they lack confidence in. And they'll pull their faults out, right?
yeah,
They won't say, I am confident, I am strong, I am successful. Instead, they'll say, you know, I'm not somebody who can learn that. I'm something, and fill in the blank of a weakness, insecurity. And so for you to share that, and I always comment and I'm like, watch your words. Your words are so important. So thank you for sharing that piece of it. And not only just sharing that you can't just say I am and then fill in the blank, I am a procrastinator, but you need to, turn it. And you shared how to change that to make it more positive and why it influences that. So I appreciate you sharing that so much. So thank you for doing that.
you're welcome.
Now, I will say that, and I'm hoping, I know I'm not the only one that maybe feels this way, but I'm curious if there's a reason. So I used to say before a lot, I don't say it anymore, but I would say, well, I procrastinate because I work better under pressure, right? And reality is I don't really like to work under pressure. Maybe I do because I know I need to get it done and I can't procrastinate any longer. But is that part of the habit forming, or is that just a false belief I've told myself over the years?
Both.
Or
It's a
is it
great
okay?
false belief. The thing is, everything you believe is true. Everything I believe is true. Everything you believe is true to each of us. And we could be talking about the exact same thing. And those beliefs can feel very different. They can look very different. They can be expressed very differently in both our lives. And so often we think that just because we've been doing something for a long, long time, it'll take a long time to change it. It's not true. You can
Yes.
actually change a behavior like that. You can change a belief like that. You can make a decision like that, because ultimately a belief is just a decision. You can shift your identity like that. Something as simple as take a shower and put on different clothes. If you're used to wearing sweatpants at home, put on a nice outfit and see how weird that feels. You might be like, oh, it's not so. Go get some nice, comfortable dress pants, right? But dress up a little at home, accessorize, go get styled. So that's something simple that will shift how you carry yourself.
That's so true.
When we were on a trip to Fiji. We were at a life and business mastery event, or life and wealth mastery event. And Fiji's beautiful and warm. And then we came back to Toronto, where I live, in March, where the weather's usually pretty good. The day we came back, it happened to be minus 20.
Oh my goodness.
And while we were in Fiji, we had committed to training for a 10K. Now, if you're a runner, that's not a big deal, but I was a dancer and I could not run to the end of the block without panting like a dog. Okay. I was just like, oh my God, can't do it. Okay. So we're like, okay, we committed to this. We publicly announced it. We're doing it as a fundraiser for a nonprofit. Like, we have to do it. It's not even for us. If it was us, we could have bailed, but we really have to follow through on this. So we decided to get out there and start running. And we did. Not the funnest day, but we did. And I remember we were very covered, but under the balaclava that we were wearing, and like our face is soaking, we were smiling, and I'm like, this is getting better. This, like, we would talk to ourselves and smile. And then when we took our face gear off, when it finally warmed up, we would run down the street and we would smile. And we would have these like ridiculous fake looks on our faces, and we'd smile and say hi to people. And I don't know if you've ever realized, when people run, they're not usually looking very pleasant. They're just like focused. And we're like,
Yes.
This is not my favorite activity, so I'm going to make the best of it. It's getting better. So we really had to pep. My husband was better than me, but I had to talk to myself a lot. But the smile on my face made me feel better. And so what did I do? I shifted my identity. I didn't say, oh, I'm not a runner, I'm a dancer. I said, wow, I'm running. I'm getting better and better at running every day. I'm a runner and runners run. Holy moly, I can do this. And it shifted how I showed up. It shifted the belief that I could actually follow through on it. It shifted how my identity of myself at that point, and it shifted other people's energies as well, because everything is energy. That's all there is to it. Match the frequency of what you want and you can't help but get it. And that's an Albert Einstein quote. He's like, this is not philosophy, this is physics.
Yeah. I love that analogy because I'm not a runner, and I don't enjoy running at all. And that would be hard to run and smile, but I understand what you're saying. And as you were talking, I'm trying to relate it to our listeners who maybe are in business and maybe not hitting their financial goal of where they want to be in business, right? And maybe year after year after year, they keep landing in the same spot and they're ready to scale and move up, but they keep missing it. So
Yeah.
applying, if I'm understanding, applying just that first step, that changing your mindset can help them scale their business. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, well, so we have a conscious mind. I call the conscious mind your head. This is the logical thinking mind. This is the thing that goes, let me get another marketing strategy. Let me go improve my sales process. Let me go improve my language for my social media. Whatever it is, like all of the tactical things, that can happen in here. That happens in here. You need those things. However, the conscious mind, the thinking mind is only responsible for 5% of your results. Heart,
Oh,
the unconscious mind, what's below the surface, what causes you to feel good, what causes you to feel bad, what causes you to have the image you hold of yourself, the belief system that I am is in here. And if you don't feel good, you could do the tactics, but are they even going to work?
so how do you switch that though,
And
right?
so you've got
Because
to do
you're saying that your mindset, your conscious is only 5%.
the conscious mind, the unconscious mind,
Okay.
the stuff
Is
that
your
you
heart.
say to yourself when no one's listening, but you kind of ignore. You actually listen to that little voice. Really examine your behaviors and go, huh, well, that's interesting. Why did I, in my mind, say, I hope they cancel? And then they canceled. And then you go, oh crap, that was my only sales call this week. Right? That you didn't
Yeah.
logically say, I hope they cancel because I don't want to have this call and I'd rather be on a walk because I haven't done my self-care and I stayed up too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're aware of these things and you can structure your life and business around it, then you can start making better choices. So even something as simple as really reconnecting to your why and your purpose and what you're even doing in business, looking someone up on social media and thinking about them as a person, and before a sales call going, do I really want to work with this person? Like, who is this person? What am I curious about? Like, what do I want to learn about them? You may not even ask that, but you get that energy up and you're like, okay, this is someone I feel like I can connect to. And you get excited
Right.
about them. And even if you've had a crappy day, you're like, well, I'll deal with that later. Let me focus on this person. They're in front of me. And you give it everything you've got. And maybe they enroll, but maybe they don't, but you show up
Right.
instead of going,
Right.
oh, I had that bad day. But you're aware of these things and you make those decisions to shift your energy. It's mindset in terms of heart, not just logical thinking, mindset over mechanics. And when you really truly connect to your best self, when you really truly connect to what you want, when you really truly connect to your heart's desires, this is the part that 95% of people skip. They just get into business. They're like, yeah, business is awesome. And it's awesome when it's good. How is it awesome on the days where things are not working out your way?
Right.
And how are you showing up with your energy? And so often it's easy to procrastinate. It's easy to put things off. You will actually have to procrastinate on most things in business if you want to get ahead. Because you can't do everything, but you've got to do the most important things.
Okay. You know what? At first, I'm like, what is she talking about? You're going to have to procrastinate most things in business. I'm like, where is she going? She just threw me a curveball. We're talking about not procrastinating. And then the final part is you can't do all things, right? Like you've got to prioritize, or you said do most things. So you kind of brought me in, but at first I was like, what? You know what? As you were sharing that, I'm thinking like so many times as an entrepreneur, we wear a lot of hats and there are a lot of things going on. I mean, right before we got onto this call, I was sharing with you things that were happening in my personal life, which are taking over my entire day today because I'm like, focus, Deanna, focus. Like, you've got to get some things done. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, but you've got this right here, right? And it's screaming really loud, and you need to be aware of all this. And so I get that, right? That's just a normal day when we're trying to go through what life or business or whatever is distracting us. But if I understood you correctly, what you are really saying is be intentional, like show up. So, as I'm talking to you, I'm not worried about what's going on over here. It's not really worry. I think it's just anxious, excited, whatever, right? There's a
Nervous
lot of
sighted,
emotions.
nervous sighted.
It's not a bad thing going on. So if anybody's listening going, what's wrong with Deanna? I'm like, it's not bad. It's good. But it's just stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's stuff going on. But you're saying just show up and be present and not worry about the little things that are distracting you. Like in that moment, really focus on, be intentional with your time and your focus and your energy on what you need to accomplish. Is my understanding that correct?
Absolutely. Well, you learn from the past, you aspire to the future. And when you're thinking about the future, a lot of times we make, like, where anxiety comes up is you're making stuff up that's not favorable, that you don't want, and you're already anticipating it's going to happen. You're making up a lie. So just decide the
Guilty.
future
I'm
you
feeling
want.
guilty.
Focus on the future you actually want. The future is good. You can aspire to that. And you've got to be in the now, because all that matters is now. And
Yeah.
so when you really start to learn how to play with time, perspective, it makes things very interesting. And it also allows you to know where things are filed. Another thing that's going to date me.
Yeah.
File folders that go in a filing
Yeah.
cabinet.
Yeah.
Not the ones on your computer. They look like the files on your computer, but they're paper. They're paper. Oh, yeah. Oh, you've got fancy ones. You got fancy ones. Love it.
Yeah, it's not the cabinet, but yes, I love these though.
Okay. So file folders, right? If you are clear on where you are, where you're going, and some of the next key steps you're pursuing to get there, you can be present because everything will have a place. You can say, oh, this goes in this bucket, this goes in this bucket, this goes in this folder, and you put the things in the appropriate place, and then you open the folder when you need it, and you close it when you don't, and you open it when you need it, and you close it when you don't. And mentally, it allows for so much more space because you can be present. It doesn't mean you're ignoring it. It just means that's not open on my desk at this point in time. And the more you really learn how to be present with yourself and with those in front of you and with the projects that you're working on, then the more exciting it gets, the more effective you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that visual that you just created for everybody about opening the folder, putting it in its place, and closing it when it needs to be closed. So thank you so much for sharing that. I have one other question. Some of the things that I'll procrastinate are when I don't want to tackle something. And
Yeah.
maybe I took on a project or something in my life that I wasn't really a fan of, but I said yes,
Mm-hmm.
and I should have said no.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to do it. And I keep pushing it back on I use Asana for my task management, right? So it keeps going back another day or another week.
Yeah.
But I kind of learned, like, when there's something like that and I get that feeling inside that I don't even want to do this right now. Like, this is just this big weight that's just hanging over my head. And if I do it first and make it a priority, then the rest of the day feels really easy.
Yeah.
Do you have another solution? Do you ever
Well,
deal with
the
something like
fact
that?
is, not everything you're going to do is stuff you want to do. And when you have the acceptance that not everything I'm going to do in order to get to this dream that I have, this to create the business that I want, to create the life and fulfillment for my family, I'm going to have to do things I don't want to do. When you learn that these things are required and you gain an acceptance, you just start to do them, right? I think there has to be an acceptance that, okay, may not like it, let's just get it done. And that's a mind shift. But also, you mentioned I've committed to things and I really don't want to. Well, I think men are really much better at this. They're good at just saying, okay, well, I'm not going to do it. Women are like, oh, but I said it, but I did. And they're making this whole soap opera drama up in our head. Like we do this, we make up dramas in our heads.
Yeah.
And if you really don't want to do it, if it's not aligned, if it's not serving you, no one's life is at stake, you could just say, I made a poor decision and this is not something I'm able to do. And you could choose to say no. And I think so often we don't give ourselves the permission. We think we have to do everything, but you don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay your taxes. You don't have to feed your children. You don't have to pay your bills. They're a really good idea. You actually don't have to do any of them. Everything in your life is a choice. And when you really start seeing that your life is a choice, you become empowered and you get in the driver's seat of your life. You are choosing to be in business. And your listeners are choosing to be in business. Focus on that blessing. And if you don't want to be in business, go choose to go back to work and be okay with it. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you're making a better choice for you. So own your decisions, really own your decisions, and realize if you made a decision and it was the wrong one, you can change it.
Oh my
Nothing
gosh,
wrong with
that's
that. But
so simple, but so amazing at the
you know
same
what?
time.
The first time you do, you'll be like, "Oh, my heart is racing," and then you'll do it, and nothing will happen. Like
That's true.
the world will continue. Maybe one person might get upset. Chances are nobody's going to notice or care. Like,
You know what? You're absolutely right. Like I was part of a board, and last year I said I've got to step down. Like I wasn't giving that organization the time and energy it deserved, and
yeah.
somebody else who was sitting in that seat could have been doing a better job. And I recognized that. It
Mhm.
just was not a priority because everything else I needed to focus on. And I stepped down, and it was such a hard decision and scary. Yes, I was like so afraid to make the phone call, to have the conversation, and so afraid to follow through. And part of me is like, am I going to change my mind mid conversation, right? Am I going to back out and end up staying? And all these different things, but nobody really cared. That's a good thing or bad thing, but everybody really understood. And I had created something so much bigger in my head of what the consequences or what would follow would be like, and it wasn't like that at all. So you are like spot on with that, but it was so scary in the moment.
I will credit my husband for teaching me that lesson as well. It's men, I have to say, are very good at just this very neutral way of being without explaining themselves. And they just make decisions and don't explain themselves. And explanation is not required. It took me a long time. I knew it and understood it consciously, but it took me a long time to accept it in my heart because it was so counterintuitive to how I had been brought up, to how I had been taught to think that explanation is actually not required.
You are so right.
Mhm.
That's an aha moment for me right now. And I'm processing that, processing it. And I'm like, no, an explanation is not required.
Yeah.
I can make a decision without having to explain myself. It's my decision. It's personal. It doesn't really matter
Mhm.
in the big picture. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Larissa, before you go, I want to talk about your book. You've got a book out, and you've got something special for our listeners too, which I'm so excited for how generous you are with this. Can you share a little bit about both of those things?
Yeah. So this is the Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away book. And it's a manual for you to help get to know yourself better than anyone else. And so often we, especially as women, we want other people to make decisions for us. We want other people to choose our paths. We don't want to we suffer from decision fatigue from what to make for dinner already. everything we're doing in our business, we don't want to think of another thing. But ultimately, until you really get to know yourself, you can't truly move forward in your life or in your business. You are your business. When you have personal stuff going on, you betcha it's going to be in your business. When you have business stuff going on, you can pretend that it's not going to trickle into your family life. It's going to trickle into your family life. Like there's no two ways about it, because you are your business. And when you really start to learn how to honor and respect that, then you can start moving forward in life. So in this book, there are so many tools that help you connect your conscious and your unconscious mind, so you can move further forward and faster. So you can truly unlock your infinite potential. Stop procrastinating your life away, and live the life of your dreams. Have the business of your dreams, and be proud of yourself along the way.
I
So
love that.
that's the book.
Yes.
Gift.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's available on Amazon. If you're a pen and paper kind of person like me, you can look it up on Amazon. If you want a free downloadable copy, this is available, not just the first chapter, but you get the whole book, because I don't want to keep it from you. I want you to have it. So if you want the book, it is yours for free at stopprocrastinatingbook.com. And so it is huge. It is super, super valuable. If you go through all the exercises, it will change your life if you let it. All you've got to do is take the first step. And it's not a huge, big, fat book. It's a thin book, but with stuff you actually have to do. And when you do it, you'll be like blown away at how amazing you really are.
Thank you so much. That's really generous, because usually if somebody's giving you something free, it is just the first chapter.
Yeah.
It's just like a little teaser portion. But to be able to get the whole book for free, and that's really generous. So thank you so much for sharing that. And all of the links that Larisa just mentioned are in the show notes. So you can connect with her, you can download the book, you can visit her website, follow her on social, do whatever you need to do. But I would highly recommend that you connect with her, because you just heard how amazing she is. So Larisa, thank you so much for coming on today. It has been a joy talking to you. I appreciate
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
it. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.